Thank you very much, Tracy. And I wish to pass my compliments to all the previous speakers for very wonderful presentations and discussions that are extremely enlightening for me. Now, I want to make a small correction. Since last year, I changed my affiliation. I now work at the Max Planck Institute for Chemical Energy Conversion. And just to add to this list of scientific awards that you just mentioned, that you just read out, Tracy, I wish to add that I'm a fellow of the next Einstein Forum, which is a recognition of Africa's most outstanding researchers under the age of 42. It is, you could equate it to the equivalent of the African Nobel Prize, so to say. I think I'm very proud to be a laureate of the award that was given to me by President Kagame. And I think it's been very inspiring. Now, in thinking about men as allies for highly skilled migrant women, I wish to share my personal experiences and challenges because I believe this to be cross-cutting. But before I begin, let me make I wish you to note, the pinnacle of scientific achievement is always rewarded with a Nobel Prize. And for my discipline in chemistry, since inception of the Nobel Prize, 120 Nobel Prizes have been awarded to chemistry. And of these, only 6 have been awarded to women. Now we see the asymmetry and the relevance of this discussion actually. How can women look at, or how can men be allies to make sure that we create some asymmetry and inclusion of women in STEM? On this note, I very much like the phrase self-inclusion, and I'm going to, towards the end, emphasize that self-inclusion actually is the key, how one can really include them. So you have to self-include yourself because no one is going to invite you. And we're going to look at what is it that you require to self-include yourself in STEM leadership. Challenges have been mentioned that make it particularly challenging for migrant women to ascend in leadership. And of course, these challenges, we can talk about migrant women in general, and these challenges are legendary. We can begin looking at STEM education. I can look back at the first Nobel laureate in chemistry, who many of us will know, that is Marie Curie, who won the first Nobel Prize in 1911 in chemistry. And for your record, she's the only woman who has won 2 Nobel prizes, one in physics and one in chemistry. Now, she was a migrant woman, for you to note. She was of Polish background and married a French scientist. And together with her husband, they won the Nobel Prize in physics. So maybe you need a man as your ally so that you can ascend in STEM leadership. Now, there's an inspiring example of recent. This did not lead to a Nobel Prize, but it is just because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Many of you will have read that the first vaccine that was developed for COVID-19 was by BioNTech here in Germany. And BioNTech is a company which is co-run by a couple. And both are scientists, and both of them, interestingly, migrants. Now, the obstacles that have been, or the challenges that have been mentioned about the challenges that migrant women face, particularly focus on the African woman, because these challenges are more accentuated actually when you're a person of Black, and especially when you're a person of color, and especially a woman. There are 2 types of challenges. The first challenge, these are the perceived challenges, and this is the mindset challenge. This is self-imposed. This you have to fight it personally. And then there are the real challenges that are society-based. These can be removed through things like policy. And for all of us who are mostly in the Western societies, I think we know that policy has been changing to allow for more women in STEM. And even when policy changes in a favorable way, you still have to work on the self-imposed or perceived obstacles, which is the mindset. And the previous speakers, especially I liked the presentation by Leah Chilingwe. Wait a minute, I don't want to mispronounce the name, Chilingwe, where she spoke about, she spoke about many important facts. For example, self-mastery. One thing you must know, what is it that you want and who are you? Now, when you know what you want, as a way of overcoming this perceived obstacles or the mindset problem, then you begin to know how do you go about to reach that what you want. Now, having highlighted the bias or maybe the asymmetry in STEM using my discipline of chemistry, we see that this is a male-dominated field. And if you're going to create allies like the previous speakers in my group, like Dr. Amarachi and Ali spoke very well. Dr. Amarachi talked about networking, and Ali talked about allyship. Now, in order to overcome these obstacles, networking is key. And the networking, of course, has its own limitations. But again, you have to overcome your individual limitations, which are really your mindset. So, and this would involve being really open-minded to overcome the prejudices that you have perceived, because most of these can really be broken down through competence and through networking. In a male-dominated discipline, you really need then men as your allies. And for that, that means you are going to deliberately, through determination and very methodically, look at what you want and create allies in the men that surround you to give you the leverage that you need to ascend in this. Why? Because networking, through networking is when you, and I liked how Leah, rather how Amarachi talked about networking. People look at it as a way of manipulating your way, but this is not how you should look at it. If you know what you want, then the entire society around you is going to support you to really reach out to your goal. But you have to be deliberate in reaching out to these people. So what I've observed, because if a discipline is dominated by men, that means that all the important decisions that impact you, that determine whether you're going to get a research grant or not, that determine whether you're going to get a promotion or not, you have to step up, show up, be bold, and express yourself, find a platform where you can express what you want. This is the only way as you're going to find your way. And this cross-cutting, it's not only for women, even us men, when you don't step up and demand or ask for what you want. So it begins with a self-belief, feeling that, yes, I'm ripe for leadership and I have the competence, what it takes to lead and to excel in this discipline. That is going to, that confidence, you need that self-belief and confidence to overcome all these prejudices, to believe that you have that uniqueness in you that's going to allow you attain that platform that you so seek. So in that case, you have to reach out to, in a very deliberate way, use your networking skills to reach out to the people that matter. This, you might be rejected at first try, at second, but eventually when you are very systematic, you keep pushing. When you are pushed back, you keep and Dr. Marachi said this very well, you have to keep trying until eventually you are going to break through this barrier. Now, of course, the challenge that we face as migrants, and these are very real, like Ali just mentioned, they're not imagined. But again, we need to break them. Again, for me, begins with changing your mindset, knowing that, but this begins with really building skills. And we're talking about highly skilled migrant women. Once you have prepared yourself and you have what it takes, you have the preparedness, then that will give you the self-belief that you need to demand for what is right for you. So in terms of what we have observed, that I mentioned that only 6 Nobel Prizes have been given to women since inception of the Nobel Prize. But the exciting news is that the tide looks to be changing. Now, just for the record, the first Nobel Prize for a woman was in 1911, the second in 1935. Those are 24 years apart. The next one was in 1964, 2009, then we had it in 2018 and 2020. Now, the Nobel Prize in 2020 is especially for me exciting because it concerns gene editing. Now, gene editing, for those of you who are interested in following up developments in science and what this means, this is really going to revolutionize the entire field of medicine and Medicare. So this is a very phenomenal achievement of a woman. Now, why has this happened is over the years, the obstacles that impede women from ascending in science leadership, which we very well know, I'm not going to go into this. Of course, each of these obstacles is accentuated when you are a person with a Black background. This becomes even double complicated. But what we have seen, for example, in recent years, because of the policy change, we see that the environment is becoming more enabling for women. Within Europe here, especially as migrants in Europe, if you look at the biggest source of support of a woman in scientific career, where you get significant research grants to do your research and therefore be a leader, is a European Union research grants. Now, what we know is that the policy has been aligned to support mothers so that the time lost to child care of a mother can be compensated by the conditions that award these grants. But one has to be aware. You have to educate yourself about these policy changes and how they favor you. And someone talked about privileges. There are privileges that exist. You might not see them, but if you look deep enough, they are going to become evident to you. How do you become aware of the privileges that are due to you? You have to really be self-aware. You have to network. You have to ask the right questions and avoid this bias. So, maybe to summarize, what I would, in terms of men being allies in this, I think it is incumbent on the women to really be deliberate in seeking out allyship with men because they dominate the field. It's not going to be possible that men are going to look out for you. The environment is already enabled. Some policy change is enabling. More has to be done. We cannot deny this, but it is incumbent upon you to really realize that you have to overcome the perceived perceived obstacles and be deliberate in your networking, because that network is what's going to create for you the environment, the conducive environment for you to advance. And so, but as you create these networks and allies, what's very important, what do you bring on the table? The value addition that you bring. It's not, you don't create allies without competences, because no one wants really to negative energy that's going to drag them back. You must always bring that skill set, that competence that you bring on the table in order to create allies. So this goes back to, then there's the hard work that one must put in to create the competence that you require to be a credible member of a network, and that support will be there. And then open-mindedness, what has propelled me is really I don't look at these physical obstacles that have been created about us, because if you're positive, you are going to overcome. It's not that they do not exist, but to really be open-minded and know that these prejudices can be overcome through your hard work. And in the STEM sciences, what we're beginning to see is that inclusion, there's now the door for inclusion is widening, especially for the women. And I've seen this as we hire. To be honest, of recent, when we're hiring, we're not looking at gender. And strangely, we see that we get more female applicants. And there's also the policy demand that we need to give reasons why we have refused to hire a woman. So the environment is enabling, but we still have to work on our inside limitations, looking deeper in us and see and unleash that woman in you who is so powerful and who is by overcoming these especially perceived obstacles. With this, I thank you very much, and I hope that by sharing my own experience and this submission that I've made can be helpful, and I look forward to the discussions. Thank you very much for your attention.